I'm going to spend a few minutes and talk about the larger system. While it may sometimes seem that you're alone, seldom are you ever really alone. This perspective was adopted from John Sterman's Introduction to System Dynamics at MIT. Typically, we set out an attempt to achieve goals, fix a problem, go from one place to another, just to do something. And that goal, in reality, is essentially an attempt to change the current state of something to whatever it is we want it to be. And the difference between the current state and our goal causes us to take action, and the intent of the action is to migrate the current state in the direction of the goal. Though often, as it turns out, it takes longer than we expect, or things don't turn out the way we expect them to, or things get better and then they get worse, or we actually attain the goal, but then we end up with other problems that we have to solve afterward. And it just, there are a myriad of implications that we are seldom aware of because we tend to have this linear cause and effect mindset in terms of saying that this is the goal, this is the problem, and this is the fix. And that's the extent to which we consider things. Though more likely than not, in the fifth discipline, Peter Senge said, you can seldom ever do just one thing. The actions that we take to migrate the state of the system have other effects. They influence other things, and the changes in those other things, more often than not, has an influence on the state of things. And this is something that we typically didn't think about and didn't plan for ahead of time. And it's responsible for things not occurring the way that we expect them to because of our short-sightedness in terms of simply looking at the goals and the state of things and taking action to move this. Now, while this is happening, we, as I said, we seldom exist in the world alone, and that the current state of things is usually perceived by others as other than what they would like it to be, and as a result, they take actions to migrate that current state in the direction of their goals, though they typically experience the same difficulties that you do in terms of things not turning out the way that they expect them to do because their actions have other effects that influence the state of things, which cause them to change in a way different than expected. So that if we look at this all together, we end up with two different goals or sets of goals with two actions attempting to move the current state of things in different directions and creating different effects. And the two individuals or groups essentially end up being adversaries with each other simply because they have different goals, which is why in the fifth discipline, Senge talks about the power of alignment so that if you get the goals lined up so that people are attempting to attain the same goals, it's very powerful. Though not only is it appropriate to get the goals lined up, it's appropriate for those participants to come to an understanding of what the appropriate actions are to migrate the current state of things in the direction of those goals. So that if these two individuals or groups have the same goals, though they believe that the actions that they should take to attain that goal are different, typically you will find that things will not turn out the way that both groups would like them to because they end up with the two actions sort of interfering with each other so that neither one of them accomplishes what they would like to. And in addition to having goal alignment and action alignment, they need to think about the implications of their actions before they take them to understand what the typical effects are likely to be. Now, in future perspectives, when we talk about more and more of the systems archetypes, there will be specific examples of this generic structure which create the indecision archetype, or escalation, or shifting the burden, a number of specific interactions that happen over and over again with approaches for dealing with those types of situations. So this is, I always thought that this was a very powerful understanding in terms of giving me a better sense of why it is that I have to pay attention to a much broader set of influences than just this is the current state of things, and this is what I want to accomplish, and here's what I ought to do to make that happen. If I really want things to turn out that way, I need to take a broader perspective, and think about more of the relevant relationships if I want it to turn out that way. So, see you soon in another perspective. Bye.